They told you owning a home was the American dream. But what if I told you that dream was quietly stolen, not by bad luck, not by your generation being lazy, but by a system built to keep it just out of reach? And before this video ends, I'll reveal one hidden policy change that could actually bring that dream back, the part no one in politics or real estate wants you to know. Stay with me, because the truth will shock you. Setting the stage. Across America, young people are asking the same question. How did my parents buy a house on one income, while I can't even qualify with two? It's not your imagination, it's math. The U.S. housing system is broken, and the numbers prove it. A national study by Brookings found that the United States is short nearly 4.9 million homes. That's not a temporary dip. That's a structural shortage, the biggest in modern history. Meanwhile, the Federal Housing Finance Agency says home prices were still up 2.9% in 2025, even after years of sky-high costs. And mortgage rates? The average 30-year loan sits in the mid-6% range, more than double what buyers paid just a few years ago. Put it together, and you get this: fewer homes, higher prices, higher rates, and for young Americans, home ownership slipping further away every single year. Why it happened, the real foundation of the crisis. Here's the part they don't teach you in school. This crisis didn't just happen, it was designed. For decades, cities have passed strict zoning laws, rules that say what can and can't be built, where. Sounds harmless, right? But those laws often banned duplexes, triplexes, or small apartments near jobs and schools. Whole neighborhoods were locked into single-family zoning, meaning one house for big lot. When millions of people wanted to live near cities and jobs, developers couldn't build enough homes. The supply stayed frozen, while demand exploded. That's how home prices went from stable to sky-high, and why even middle-class families now struggle to compete. This isn't about individual effort. It's about structural scarcity. The pandemic made it worse. Then came 2020, and the housing market went nuclear. Interest rates dropped to historic lows. Suddenly, anyone with steady income could borrow cheap money and buy. People rushed out of cities, wanted more space, more privacy, and a piece of the dream. But remember that supply shortage. There weren't enough homes to go around, so prices shot through the roof. Then the Fed raised rates to fight inflation, and overnight, the same house cost hundreds more per month to finance. A $300,000 home that once cost $1,200 a month now cost nearly $2,000. Same house, same price tag, just a different interest rate. That rate spike locked millions of first-time buyers out, not because they didn't work hard enough, but because math turned against them. The financial trap for young Americans. And if you're under 35, you're probably fighting another monster: student debt. The average borrower owes tens of thousands of dollars before even saving a penny for a home. Banks see that debt and say, sorry, too risky. Even if you can afford the monthly payment, the down payment is the killer, often more than your entire savings. That's why young adults today are marrying later, starting families later, and renting longer. They're stuck in a cycle where rent keeps rising, but they can't save fast enough to break free. It's not a lifestyle choice. It's an economic trap. And here's the twist most people don't realize. You're not just competing with other families. You're competing with investors, many of them massive corporations. Since 2020, investor buying of single-family homes has surged to around 13% of all sales nationwide. That's roughly 1 out of every 8 homes being bought not to live in, but to rent back to you. Think about that. The same dream house you were saving for might have been bought in cash by a hedge fund that will now charge you rent for it. In many neighborhoods, first-time buyers don't stand a chance. the long-term damage. So, what does this mean for the future? It means wealth inequality will explode. For generations, homeownership was how the middle class built wealth. When you buy, you lock in your costs, build equity, and eventually own an asset. When you rent, you build someone else's equity instead. If young people can't buy homes, that wealth and the power that comes with it stays concentrated at the top. It also changes how people live. They move less, take fewer risks, start families later, and feel permanently temporary. That's not just a housing problem, it's a social shift, and it's already shaping the future of America. So, why the usual solutions don't work? So, what are the experts saying? Lower interest rates, give out subsidies, forgive student loans. Sure, those help a little, but none of that matters if there simply aren't enough homes to buy. You can't fix a shortage with cheaper loans, you just create bidding wars. Down payment assistance? Great, but if 10 people get it, they'll just outbid each other. And zoning reform? Politicians talk about it, but most cities block it to protect neighborhood character. In other words, keep prices high, keep newcomers out. The secret reveal. What could actually fix it? All right, here's what you waited for. The single most powerful change that could make homes affordable again. The one thing the public rarely hears about. It's called upzoning, and it means allowing more homes to be built where people actually want to live. If cities around jobs and transit opened up land for duplexes, triplexes, and small apartment buildings, instead of protecting massive single-family lots, the supply could finally catch up. Pair that with fast-track permitting, no years-long approval delays, and targeted programs that help first-time buyers purchase those newly built homes, and the market could finally balance. That's the real fix. Not handouts, not slogans, but more homes in the right places. Of course, that threatens entrenched interests, developers, local boards, even some homeowners who want prices high. That's why you don't hear about it on the news, because fixing housing means changing power, not just policy. So, no, it's not your fault you can't afford a home. You're living in a system that was built for a different era, one that's now locking out the next generation. But it's not hopeless, because this isn't physics, it's politics. Local politics. Every city council, every zoning meeting, every planning board vote. That's where the future of housing is decided. If you want the American dream back, start paying attention to what happens in your own backyard. Because until we break the rules that keep houses scarce, you'll never own one. But the moment we do, the dream becomes real again. If you want me to expose the cities secretly fighting to block new housing, or the ones that actually fixed it, comment below and tell me which state I should start with. Hit like, subscribe, and share this video, because the only way to rebuild the American dream is to understand who broke it.